Welcome to the Understand Photography Show. I'm Peggy Farren. Today we're going to talk with Tomas Mitchell, who is a fine art photographer, about finding and honing your look. You need to have a look to help with your branding. So we're going to talk about that in today's show. Be sure to check out the show notes after the show because we're going to have Tomas's photography on there. Heather does a great job of typing up the highlights of the show, so you kind of have a little summary with links maybe on different things we talk about in the show. So check out the show notes on understandphotography.com. Now, when you first get to our website, it's going to say right there, it says click here for freebies. We've got all kinds of stuff that we give away. They're downloads, they're videos, different educational videos, different downloads that you might be interested in. Go ahead and click on that. You'll be on our mailing list after that. We send out a newsletter once a month that tells what we've got going on and also has different photo tips in it. While you're on the website, click over onto the 4 weeks to proficiency in photography and check out our signature course. We have I think we have 9 online courses. Our motto at Understand Photography is we simplify the technical. So the 4 weeks to proficiency it's that foundational course. We start in the first class. It's a 2-hour class, and we're going to teach you how to shoot in the manual mode. And you're going to really understand it, but we're going to make it so simple. That class, I only teach basically 4 things. You're going to learn about your meter. You're going to learn about aperture, ISO, and shutter speed, how to put that together. And that's it. So once you learn that, everything else gets easier. So you'll have homework every day that you need to turn in. So this class has a little bit of accountability. So it's not a class you're going to forget to do. You're going to buy and, oh, I forgot I bought that class. You're going to buy it. You're going to get reminders to do your homework and hopefully turn your homework in for some critiquing. The second class is on composition. The third is on lighting, including how to use your flash. And then the fourth is what I call the techie stuff. It's about metering modes, drive modes, focusing points, and things like that. It's called the 4 weeks to proficiency. The next class starts on October 16th, 2019. I'm ahead of my time. And just do it. You will love the class. We've got, you can read all of the testimonials and everything that people really, really like the class because we are good at breaking things down in a simple way. It's an online class, but it's kind of a hands-on class because I'm going to be teaching you, this is the button. If you have a Canon, this is the button to push. If you have a Sony, this is the button to push. This is the dial to turn. So it's not like you're going to be hearing a concept and try to figure it out with your camera. Or what most people try to do is they try to learn their camera when they don't understand the concepts. So we're going to put those two together in this class. Also, while you're on our website, check out our trips. If you're a spontaneous woman, we have 1 opening left for our Tuscany trip, which is September 28th. So it's next week. But boy, do we have fun on our ladies only trip. So that you can check that out on our website. Check out our other trips. Joe Fitzpatrick leads some fabulous trips to the Everglades and to Old Florida up in the Panhandle area. Brian Jansen leads the Old Naples photo tour. We've got all kinds of stuff on there that you're going to like. And then, of course, tons and tons of educational articles and lots of videos. So Tomas Mitchell, he is a listener of the show, and he emailed me and he said, hey, would you check out my portfolio because I really want to. He's been selling his work, his photography, his art for a little while now, and he has success. He does okay, but he wants to do better. So I looked, normally I charge for that, but for some reason I clicked on his portfolio, and I thought this guy has the same problem as 97% of photographers, including me, by the way. He has too many subjects. When you go on his website, you look at his work and it is amazing. He is such a good photographer. He is a good photographer. He didn't need photography advice from me, but he needs to find a look, something that says, this is a Tomas Mitchell photograph. When people look at it, they're going to know it's him. So I said, hey, would you be on the show and I can kind of pick on you? And he said, sure. So, so Tomas, I'm sorry, I keep saying Tomas, but he goes by Tom, so that makes it easier. Tomas is our guinea pig of the day. So welcome, Tom.
Thanks for having me on, Peggy.
So you and I spoke, or communicated on email, and you were asking me about your portfolio and what could you do to improve. And I looked at your work, and your work is fabulous. You are an amazing photographer.
Thanks.
But there's a but.
Exactly.
You have the same problem as 90% of photographers, including me, where you like to take pictures of everything. And so your website is full of 1,000 different types of pictures. Am I right?
Yep.
I have the same problem. I understand it completely. But when you said something, you asked me a question, and I thought that would be a good show. We're going to talk about how to come up with a look or a niche or a theme or something. And so we'll use you as the guinea pig on the show. What do you think?
Cool. Let's do it.
Let's do it. So now you have been a photographer for a long time. You've worked in camera repair. You've worked in weddings. You've done, right? You worked in a lab too, didn't you?
Oh yeah, I used to run 1 hour and pro labs.
So you have more experience in photography all around than most people. That's probably why you're such a dang good photographer. I mean, you are a really good photographer. You've got all this stuff going on.
I've tried everything. So, you know.
And you haven't done the same thing over and over. You've improved. I mean, I guess you've improved unless you were always this good, but chances are you improved.
No, looking at my old stuff, I've improved.
It's funny because I can look at old pictures that I took, and some of them I'll go, wow, that's a good picture. And other ones I was like, what was I thinking? So, or geez, I didn't really know what I was doing there. So now what do you, it looks like on your website you don't shoot a lot of people anymore. You shoot a lot of landscapes.
I quit shooting people. It was bad for my health. It made me go bald.
And for our podcast listeners, he does not have any hair. Just on his chinny chin.
Yeah.
So now you've been mostly selling your artwork through art fairs. Is that correct?
Yeah. Yeah, and on my website.
Okay. So I'm just going to go through like just different ideas, and then you can give me all your excuses why they won't work.
Okay.
Because I can already hear them, because I go through this with a lot of people. All right. So when you are selling your work, do you have something that sells in general, something that sells better than something else, than anything else? I mean,
it really depends on where you're selling it. I mean, if I only do local Utah shows, and one in Nevada and one in Wyoming. But you need to cater it to what the crowd that's coming to this specific show. But generally speaking, my fall foliage, and here in Utah we get beautiful fall colors and snow-covered peaks and big mountains, and that stuff tends to sell well. People really like that here. If I was to go to California, that probably wouldn't sell well.
Okay.
So,
you know what? You made a good point, because now we talked about this before, but we want the audience to hear it. Talk about how you select your art shows. It's a little off topic, but you have some really good advice, I think, in that area.
Well, I have been looking for a niche market. I've kind of done it here in Utah, where I traveled to England and Scotland 5 years ago, and so I've got a pretty good um, grouping of pictures from there. So I do a local Scottish festival and a local Celtic music festival that they have in Wyoming, and sell a lot of stuff at those people that are interested in that stuff.
So
Um,
so you specifically sell your images of Scotland and Ireland or whatever at those shows.
yeah,
Do you bring other things too?
I
Like
do. I do
your
take some
fall
other local
foliage?
stuff
But
and
you,
sell. Sometimes people there that, oh wow, that would look really good in my house, and they want it. So
but generally at those festivals, the Ireland stuff sells better, or the Scotland stuff.
yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah. And I have various displays. I typically don't sell big stuff off the walls. I take displays and then take an order for some, if somebody wants something. But yeah, I've got quite a bit of displays built up now for various shows. Um, Picking shows to do can be difficult because it's kind of a crapshoot to get into a show like art festivals. Yeah, they're juried. Juried shows are the best ones to get into, but they're not always that easiest to get into. So
Yeah, but you're really good. You could definitely get into the
I did the
high-end
Utah
art
Art
shows.
Festival here 2 years ago, which is the biggest show in Utah, and I did okay. I have friends that did that show that did better than I did, but I got accepted on my England and Scotland architectural stuff, and that doesn't sell well in Utah. I sold some, but the guys that were selling their pictures of the canyon lands, of the national parks in Utah and the mountain scenes, that sold really well. So.
Yeah, and you do have to show the work that you're juried in on, but I think you could get in on those fall foliage shots. I mean, you're
Yeah, but
good.
they get a lot of other people applying with that same basic stuff. So I'm trying to find my niche market in selling, but I need a niche market in what people will see. Oh yeah, that's a Tom Mitchell photograph. When they
Yeah.
look at it, I mean, you see certain people's work and you know who took that picture.
And I still have to figure out, like, sometimes, because I have certain people that I follow on Facebook. Most of them have been on the show and I got to know them. And like David Sussman is a good example because he kind of shoots everything. He takes pictures of everything, but I
Uh-huh.
always know his look. He has a look, and
Yeah.
it's his processing. So
I
that's a whole thing to explore. I don't know what he does, but it's fabulous. And his processing makes his pictures look kind of the same. Now I'm leading a photo trip to Tuscany, probably as we speak. And the man who I'm co-leading with, his name is Stefano Caparoli.
Sounds Italian.
I'm messing up his name. Anyway, of course his theme is Tuscany, but everybody, how many people do Tuscany landscapes? But he has a very unique look, and again, it's his processing. So I'm hoping to find out like his processing tricks on this trip. Because I don't know what he's doing. It looks really cool, but I haven't really tried either, but to duplicate it. Same thing with David Sussman. So if it's not but processing is something to think about.
It
Because
is.
maybe you can process your fall foliage pictures with some kind of twist to make them stand out.
Yeah. I tended originally. I was because I'm an old film guy, but when I got into digital and started doing HDR stuff, I was using a program, Photomatics Pro, which is an HDR program, and I had settings in there that I liked that made my stuff kind of look the same across the board. I'm not using that anymore. I'm just using Lightroom, but I'm still doing, trying to keep stuff balanced, to where it has the same basic kind of look to it. But it depends what you're photographing. So,
Yeah.
you don't want to HDR animals and people, obviously. So, and I think I've backed off a little bit on my HDR, or something really looked HDR processing from when I started doing digital. I've tried to find a, balanced ground, but I tend to do more custom working on my stuff when I'm editing. A lot of guys will use plugins, and I tend to take my files into Photoshop and then just dodge and burn. I mean, adjust contrast and that, dodge and burn stuff. And sometimes that doesn't give a consistent look because every piece might have a little bit different character to it. But
I got the same thing because I do the same thing. I don't have I struggle with having a look because I like different editing techniques on different pictures too. And, but that is something to explore. I mean, try not to be a purist, try the Topaz plugins, try the Nik filters. Just, you might come up with something that looks really cool and say, you know what, this is the look that I want. Now, let me just back up and say, just because let's say that fall foliage is going to be your look, that's what you're going to specialize in. And you're going to find that processing technique or something to make it yours so that it doesn't look like everybody else's fall foliage pictures of Utah, right? So you found a way to kind of differentiate yourself. That doesn't mean you have to limit yourself and only take pictures in the fall. You can still take pictures all year round. You can still take Scotland. You still go to Scotland. You can still, you know what I'm saying? But when you go to your website, it would be like Tom Mitchell, he specializes in Utah landscapes. But then, just like Clyde Butcher is our guy here in Florida, we know Clyde Butcher, he specializes in black and white Everglades in the summer, which I don't know if people realize most of his pictures are taken in the summer because we have those amazing clouds in the summer. But that's what he's known for. But then when you start going around his site, he's got galleries of Spain and, he went out west to California. And so he's got other galleries in there, although he does do everything in black and white.
Yeah.
But he doesn't limit it. You don't have to limit yourself. But if you want to sell photography, you do have to have a look. Okay, so I didn't want people to think that they couldn't, like the only time that Tom's ever going to take pictures is in for 6 weeks in the fall. Then you're going to sit on them the rest of the time, right? How long is your fall season? It's probably not even that, is it?
It's starting right about now.
Which is October. I think we're airing this in the beginning of October, I think.
Oh, yeah. So it starts about mid-September and runs through mid-November. I mean, the fall colors in the mountains are usually gone by the end of October, by mid to end of October. But the valleys, then the trees in the valley start changing. So you get some pretty colors throughout the whole spectrum for a couple months.
So you've got about 2 months. Take those pictures. Well, maybe you could have Utah landscapes and have the different, have that kind of be like what hits you in the face on your website or in your booth. If you're in but then on your website, you have galleries of summer, winter.
Yeah.
Because I'm assuming you like to take pictures all year round. I don't know. I wouldn't be out there in the winter, but maybe you are.
I actually like photographing in the winter. You can get some great black and white stuff in the wintertime because everything's black and white.
Yeah.
So,
but I mean, that would be like Utah landscape photographer, but then you're niching. You're making, like, what I'm trying to do is think of variations of that to try to keep that as your, like, one thing.
Yeah. I've had a thought recently. I've started doing it, but it's kind of hard to keep up with because you got to be the right spot at the right time. But from I don't know if you've ever been to Utah, but from north of Salt Lake all the way to a couple hours south of Salt Lake, we have this high mountain range called the Wasatch Range of the Rocky Mountains, and some of the peaks top out at almost 12,000 feet, and they're towering right over the towns and the cities. And we have, I mean, ski resorts galore here, 10 ski resorts within an hour drive of my house. And I've got this concept, and I've started it, but it's a matter of just sticking with it, of photographing every major peak along here that you can see. I can see them right out my front window, and and that stuff actually sells. So
I love that.
But it's hard to pull off because you've got to basically, I mean, you can't just show up and get a good picture. You've got to go back. You've got to find the right spot. You got to go back and then back and back, and so.
But that's why that would be such a great niche, because you have to live there.
Yeah.
So you've wiped out all your vacation competitors. You have to live there to do that. It's hard. Yep. And a lot of people don't have discipline. They just, I want to go out and shoot today, But when you shoot with a goal in mind like that, you have to be more disciplined. So people aren't going to do that. But I love that idea.
Well, it's really popular, the national park stuff, the Red Rock stuff and Arches and Bryce, all those national parks that millions of people come and see is what everybody's photographing. And I have some stuff from there, but I got, as I was thinking more about it over the last few months, and after we talked, then I'm like, I have got to buckle down and do this, because I've been doing it here and there, but I've got to just start, and this is the time of year to do it. Right now, as we're heading into fall, we got fresh snow on the mountains, the leaves are starting to change. It's the prime time. So
now the question is, I think it's brilliant, because you've got one of the things that we teach about selling your photography is having series. That's a series. Somebody buys one of your peaks, and then they can collect them all. How many are there?
Oh, God, 8 to 10. Major peaks. Just I-15, Interstate 15 runs north and south through Utah, and if you travel that from southern Utah to northern Utah, it's just mountains and peaks all the way along there. So. Series is a great concept, and I've tried to do that with some things. I go to Arizona a lot. I have a lot of Arizona stuff, surprisingly, and there's wild horses down there right outside of Phoenix on this big river, and I've done a couple different series. The one I went down there last year specifically I wanted motion blurred images of the horses, and so I did this whole series. I call it the Ghost Horses of the River, and I've got one of a stallion running, just coincidentally started running after hours of watching it. And I panned with a 20th of a second shutter speed to motion blur it. So I've got 5 in that series. I've got to get back down there and do some more. And that time to do that's in the winter time, because it's not 110 degrees.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've ever been to Phoenix, but you don't go there in the summertime.
I don't think I've been I went through Arizona, so I've only been there, I drove my son when he left me to move to California. I mean, he didn't leave me. He had already left me. He was already gone out of the house for 10 years, but but when he moved to California, I said, well, let's pack up my minivan, we'll go. And so we took I-10. So we went through Arizona in the south.
Yeah. So you drove right through Phoenix on I-10.
Tucson. Oh, I did?
Or south of there.
And then on the way home, I went through, I went back I-40, because I drove to Atlanta on the way home. So that was
and I-40 took you right by Flagstaff, and that's north of Flagstaff, but it's a pretty drive.
It was great. It gave me a little bug for road trips. So I had a lot of fun. Anyway, okay. So no, I don't know anything about Arizona other than the little tiny bit that I did. So, but I except for all the pictures I see, but like, as you said, I see all the regular pictures that everybody takes. So, when they're on vacation, that's what those are the pictures that, I think you should have those in your repertoire, but that can't be the niche because it's too
because everybody's doing it.
Yeah.
Those wild horses down there are extremely popular to photograph.
Horses.
And I see people's pictures all day long of them that are stop action, frozen in time, and I wanted to do something different. And so mine are very abstract. You either love them or you hate them, you know. And I sell them, you know. So, but it takes a special kind of person to want something that is abstract when it comes to photography.
But horses is a great niche too.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't want to spread you too thin because you need to make a decision, but let's just explore that because people into horses are fanatical about horses. I mean, it's not a cheap hobby, and they're like big dogs, so you love them.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they got great personalities and whatever, but they cost more than a dog, and they're more work. So people who are really into horses are really into horses. But I think, and this may or may not be true, you have a lot of variety in horses. Like you've taken those, I mean, that could be your look with the, you know, the motion blur type of horses, but you've got those wild horses. I mean, what about like going to see the Lippes and Stallions when they're doing their dances and doing the slow shutter speed and, you know, and
there's those ones in France.
Horses.
Those horses in France, those white horses that run up and down the coast. Everybody gets shots of those.
Oh, yes, yeah.
I've wanted to go do that. There's wild horses on the Outer Banks, up the coast from you. You're on the Atlantic coast, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm in Florida.
Yeah, there's wild horses up there. There's quite a lot of herds around, and I've kind of thought about I would rather do wildlife than anything, and that would be a good niche market because they're wild horses. They're technically domestic horses that have been let loose, you know, but they're wild now. And it's something that, I mean, people are doing it, but, you know, doing it my own way.
Yeah.
I should write a song about that. I did it my way. Oh, wait, they did. Never mind.
Anything about animals, niching into animals, that's such a great niche because people, like I'm a cat person. I love cats. Dog people are the most fanatical, I think. If you can find some kind of niche with like a certain cat, like, I mean, look at Crusoe, the celebrity dachshund. Do you know who he is? I mean, I watch him all the time, but people who have dachshunds, they love him. My assistant Mel has a dachshund, and she's got dachshund paper clips and dachshund this and dachshund that. You know what I mean? So
my sister has a dachshund, Oscar. I'm his pet. He loves me more than her sometimes. She'll come to visit me, and he wants to just be with me. He wants to ignore her. So.
But that is, anything to do with animals is such a great niche.
I learned that years ago. When I was photographing people years ago, babies and baby animals or animals in general can be big sellers if you can get them right. One of my most popular images I have is of a Scottish Highland cow. It's an orange fuzzy cow. People think it's a yak, but Highland cow are really hairy, and I mean like the hair hanging in front of their eyes. They have long horns, as long as Texas Longhorns sometimes, the bulls do. And I got this picture in Scotland of one, and it's been really popular. I even sold the rights to somebody who wrote a book, a children's book, and they wanted that picture on the front cover of their book, you know. So that's a whole, and those Scottish cows are getting really popular. People are raising them all over the U.S. now and all throughout Northern Europe. And that's something I've thought about also. You see, I like too many things.
I know.
But
I understand that, believe me, because I am the same way. So every time I look and I say, this is what you should do, but, you know, go to my website and then let's, you know.
Yeah.
So I mean, I'm guilty too, because it's hard for me to be disciplined to, you know, for me, the infrared stuff sells the best.
Yeah.
and it's really hard for me because, you know, that's another whole camera I got to carry around. So
Yeah, because you have a special CCD for infrared in your camera. So
and I don't feel like carrying it sometimes. So, you know, that's an issue. So let's talk about other niches though, because, you know, we're talking about you, but other people are listening to this show.
uh-huh.
So because you're coming up with some great ideas. So animals and specific animals. I mean, just taking an idea
Yeah.
and then niching it even more is just brilliant. Or like you're saying with the horses with the slow shutter speed, you're taking a specific technique with a specific animal. I mean, that's another great idea, you know, or a unique animal like this cow. That's
Yeah.
a unique animal. I mean, I'm sure you would have to go seeking that out. So people probably aren't doing that. So that's a good niche.
Yeah, there's some of them on Instagram. You're seeing more and more people posting pictures of them on Instagram and Facebook. But it's really, yeah, those specific cows are just so fuzzy. You want to just go up and give them a big hug. And I think that's what finding something that will get that emotion in people, because that's what art is all about, is getting an emotion, getting out of the person looking at it. You know, with photography, you've got to be able to pull on emotion, whether it's a memory that they've got from going to that spot, or, oh my heavens, that's such a cute cow, or look at those little sheep or those horses, something that draws that emotion out of them and makes them want to have it. That's what I've been finding is really what it takes to sell stuff. You know, besides like you had a guest, I think it was Arthur Morris, is that his name?
Artie Morris, the bird photographer.
The bird photographer.
Yeah.
That, no, was it him or one of the anyway? Where they said you've got to get out there and sell yourself, and sell. You know, it's not just your work. You've got to be able to get out there and sell it too.
Yeah, well, that's a whole different show.
That is.
That is, you know, you have to create a name and a brand for yourself.
Yeah.
And you've got to get it out there by, you know, you're doing juror art shows. That's a great way to get your name out. You got to get that on the website that you were juror in, not just I did this art show. You have to say I was juror in, you know, because they need to know that you were good enough to be in a high-end art show. It can't just say I did this art show.
Yeah.
You know, anything you win, all the awards, the contests, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And, you know, I have a lot of advice about that, because contests are fine, but the better contests are better. So if you're going to be competing, compete in more prestigious things.
Yes.
Than your local camera club. Now, that being said, I think you should start with your local camera club if you're just starting. But, you know, that's, you know, saying I won first place at the Naples Camera Club, that's not that impressive. You know, saying I won first class in the, you know, Photographic Society of America, that's more impressive.
Yeah.
So, but we're not going to talk about that.
The contests I like doing are ones, well, for instance, the Epson International Panel Contest. I entered that in 2016 and got a silver, which was, I was in the top 50, and I got 2 bronzes. And that contest specifically I really like because they tell you what your score was on your images. And if you score 80 or above, it's a silver, 70 or above is a bronze. And they show you what your score was. And that, to me, is more important than anything, which is one of my gripes on the flip side. You do a lot of contests, you have no clue what if they liked your images. You enter art shows and you get no feedback from the jury on whether they liked what they did like or didn't like about you. And so I tend to pick contests that I see, you know, that they give you feedback and let you know what the score was. And so I'm like, okay, next time, I mean, I'll pick a different image, something that is going to, you know, I can improve myself with.
Yeah.
But does that make any sense?
Yeah, to get feedback. Okay, but let's get back on our topic, because our topic is niching down. So I want to just kind of wing through. You and I are going to do some brainstorming on different topics or different subjects, because we talked about animals. We talked about animals specifically, in different different techniques. So it could be a processing technique. It could be a shooting technique, like you're doing the slow shutter speed to show the motion and the panning. What's that called? We talked about Utah, landscape in Utah. So landscapes, but specifically maybe, the peaks, the mountain peaks, or fall, winter, spring. That could be another option, or different towns, I don't know. I mean, I don't know about Utah because I've never been there, but like I've been to Italy. I really like Italy. So
and those great little towns in Italy.
Well, and those mountaintop towns where you can get a whole like scene. That could be a theme, here's Assisi, here's Cortona, here's, and you could have the mountaintop or, the hilltop towns of Italy. That could be a theme. What else? Of course we have the bird photographers who can niche into like eagle photography or just raptors or shorebirds, or I'm not a bird photographer, so I'm losing my
shorebirds and raptors and like the puffins. Puffins are a really popular bird. You have to go Greenland, Iceland, Ireland, places like that to see puffins. But what's that?
Maine has puffins.
Maine has puffins. Yes, it does actually. And that's a niche market. People love puffins, like penguins. Penguins. You have to go south of the border, as it were, so south of the equator. But penguins are really big sometimes. Some guys that are doing penguins do really well.
You know what I just learned yesterday? They eat puffins.
That's just wrong.
I didn't know that. I just learned yesterday.
I guess the Inuits, the native peoples would have. I mean, they're a big food source. So
I know. No, they eat them now.
Do they?
Yeah, I read it. I was reading an article about travel writing, and I'm trying to become a better writer. And they were talking about niching. The same subject we're talking about as a writer. They're talking about niching it down, and they were talking about, everybody has like, here's what I ate at this restaurant, but eat the unique local foods like puffin, and it's like, oh, they eat those cute little birds. So, of course, underwater. I'm going back to our subject, underwater photography.
Yeah.
Fish is one cool thing, but I had a guest on the show, David Berg. He's from St. Croix in the Virgin Islands, and he does people underwater.
Yeah.
But they're like very artistic. It's not, like I do. Sometimes I'll do that just for fun of my niece or whatever, and I like to do that in my pool. He does it in those beautiful waters in the Caribbean, but. He's so good about like getting the sunbeams in there, and he's just very, very creative with that. That's another niche. What else can we come up with to talk to people about? I want to just kind of get people's brains working on what they could do. Like, cause you've been doing it with yourself and coming up with some great ideas.
I think it depends on what they're into. I mean, for instance, if they're into cars, classic cars. Going to car shows and photographing classic cars can be big money. I've got a friend here in Utah that has been doing that and doing really well. I don't have much interest in that, but he really sells a lot of stuff because these people put tons of money, heart, and energy into refurbishing their cars and taking them to car shows to brag about them. So he'll have them take their cars to these cool locations, like this old gas station in this little town in the middle of nowhere here in Utah. These old gas pumps from the 1950s, and photographing their cars in front of that. And he's got this great little niche that, And I'm like, man, that's awesome. Go for it. I have no real interest in that, but do it, man.
Now, is he a contracted person doing that, or does he keep the rights to his pictures so he can sell them again?
Yeah, no, he keeps the rights to his pictures, and he usually just does a trade with the guy. Hey, you let me photograph your car, and I'll give you a big print of it.
That's right. That's brilliant.
Yeah.
You're right, but like you could do taking cars to cool locations is an awesome idea.
Yeah.
And then you could kind of have themes within, you could have niches within that, like all Corvettes or Corvettes through the years, or red cars in Utah. I don't know. I'm just looking for ideas. What else you got? You're on a roll.
Cars, like I was saying, and we talked about animals. Sports, there's always the sporting photographers. They're there photographing the sporting events. If you're really into people, I don't know if it's a big deal anymore, but I used to make a lot of money doing dance schools.
Yeah, but this show specifically is about selling artwork. So
that's true. That's true.
It's not more about contracted work.
That's true.
You did just give me something I want to share. When I was in Maine, we went into a restaurant. I think it was a restaurant, and they featured one photographer, and he had stadiums from all over the country.
Yes, I've met a guy that does that.
It was fascinating.
Very cool wide-angle panoramic shots of stadiums. Yeah,
and they were huge. I forget how much money they were, but they weren't cheap. And I assume he was selling them, probably giving the restaurant a cut, or maybe the old restaurant. I don't know, but they were very cool, very cool. So if you were a big sports fan of this, I'm not a sports person at all. So,
me neither, actually.
Okay, so but as you know, a lot of people are.
Yes, and there's big.
Like for me. My girlfriend, when I grew up, her mom worked in the snack bar at Tiger Stadium in Detroit. I would probably I wouldn't buy a big, huge wall portrait but they tore it down. It's gone now. But I have a lot of childhood memories growing up in Tiger Stadium because we used to go all the time. I don't know, probably she couldn't even get a babysitter and just would take us, but take us to work. But I had a lot of time in that stadium, even though I was never really into baseball, but it was still a good memory for me. So if I was into baseball, I would have bought a big one probably. Yeah. So that's a great one. Sports.
I think a lot of it depends on where you live. Like, if you live by the Everglades, photograph in the Everglades. If you live by, mountains, photographing mountains and what you're interested in. There's also the whole market that I've seen guys doing well. In fact, there's a guy from Florida that I know of. What's his name? Can't remember now. He does these awesome stormy pictures of, like as the big storms are rolling in, the hurricanes coming in. He does these awesome pictures of these huge, crazy storm clouds over Miami and over cities like that.
That's a great
he'll
idea.
do a lot of composite work, where he'll like put water spouts in pictures and whatever, which I'm fine with. It's art, so stuff like that, storm chasing stuff has gotten pretty big. And if you live in an area where you're getting hit by hurricanes all the time.
I know. Lately, it seems like it.
Yeah.
In fact, I had some friends, we just had a hurricane come through. Not really. We had the outer bands. We didn't get hit too bad from Dorian, but a lot of my friends from Orlando had a lot of cool pictures. We didn't in Naples. We got nothing. It didn't even get windy. So everybody, all my friends who live I have friends all over the world at this point, and they're like, "How are you doing?" I'm like, "Didn't even get any wind." So Florida's a big state. Keep going. You're on a roll.
Yeah, storms, rivers. People that live by rivers in the U.S. We have great rivers, the Mississippi, the Missouri, the Ohio, the Tennessee, Kentucky. All these rivers that you can get great shots along. I mean, that's something I've thought about too. Let me think, that's a big travel. But if you're living in the Ohio River along there, there's lots of great sites you could get along the Ohio, just great shots up and down the river, for instance.
That I think you would have to niche even more. You couldn't just say along the Ohio River, but you could say abandoned boats along the Ohio River.
Yes.
Or
Yeah.
something like that.
Yeah, in fact, abandoned boats, you can find great abandoned boats around.
I don't know why. All photographers love that. People like to buy it as art too, but I love abandoned boats.
Yeah.
We do a photo tour. Joe does a photo tour up to the Panhandle, the Apalachicola area. He does in the spring, and that place is full of dead boats. We love it. You know what? I want to expand on something though, because you made me think about, and I had this guy, Reg Garner, on my show. I'm trying to get him back because he was a good guest. But he kind of made his name as being like the Sanford, Florida photographer. He lives in a, medium-sized town outside of Orlando. And he has he has a very energetic man. So he's out there all the time. And he's very good on social media. And he just started taking these fabulous pictures of, a storm over the Sanford water, Sanford downtown, Sanford this, Sanford that, Sanford whatever. And the Chamber of Commerce uses his pictures, and they have them hanging. They've bought pictures for the city hall. And I mean, I don't know exactly everything. I'm sure I'm not saying everything exactly, but he is so well known in Sanford at this point. And so now he's sort of moving things over to Orlando, and he's starting to do the same thing there, which is a bigger market. But still, there was another man on my show, and this guy was an older gentleman, film photographer, doesn't have a website. He does aerial shots of Marco Island, and that's it. And
just aerial shots of that island.
That's it. And he sells them at art shows and farm markets only on Marco Island.
Wow.
So of course we have a lot during season because it's we have our population triples in the winter for 6 months. So for 6 months of the year, he makes enough money, never leaving Marco Island, just selling that, because there are so many new people moving in all the time, and they're so excited about their new island that they want some kind of, and he's got, lots of different ones. And
yeah.
Isn't that fascinating though?
That is actually.
I mean, the guy doesn't even have a website.
He doesn't need one because he's selling right there to people as they come and go.
Fabulous. I mean, if you can find something that people want and make it your own somehow. Mm-hmm. Because, I bet there's lots of people taking aerial shots of Marco Island, but he's the only one you're going to think of.
Yeah.
If you say, I want an aerial shot of Marco Island, we're going to send it. Right now I'm having a brain freeze. I can't remember his name, but I'm just going to look it up. I'm going to find him, even though I bet you anything. I know several people with drones and everything over there. I bet they've got lots of pictures like that.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't think of them. I would think of him. Barry something. Barry Howe? Anyway, what else? Let's do a few more and then we'll move on to the next, because I want to talk about some other things about the niching. But religious is a big thing. People are religious.
Yes.
So, pictures of Baptist churches maybe, or we talk about in one of our classes this photographer who hired a model and made him sign some kind of release that he would not model as Jesus for anyone but her. And she does a series called Joyful Jesus. So she has pictures of this guy with lambs and children and just different things of these happy scenes with Jesus. What a great idea.
That is. I actually know a number of painters that are niche in that market. I've been working on series of all the Mormon temples. Living in Utah, we have quite a few. They're scattered all over the world now, and it's a slow process to go to and get a good shot. But I'm actually doing an event this weekend, not this weekend, next weekend, where that will be my highlight thing is local Mormon temples, So that's a niche market that's pretty well taken care of by a couple guys, but I think there's room for me to move into it slowly. I can't make up my mind which one I want it, but that's, I just get them when if I'm in the area, I will go and sit there, wait until it's pitch black before I leave, taking pictures, and sometimes I get good enough stuff I can use, and sometimes I don't. Usually I do, if I put in the time to be there.
I'm not sure if that's a right market for you, though. It sounds like there's a broader audience for your other two ideas. Out of those
but that's a great market. I talked to a guy the other day. I was talking to him about this, and he's not doing photography much now, but he did for a long time. And his theme was old church doors. And that, I was like, man, that's awesome.
I know there was a photographer. I don't know how many posters I've seen of doors of Denmark or something. I don't even know. I don't remember what it is now, but you're right. Little pieces of things are a good idea too.
Yeah.
So, all right, what else? Let's go through a few more, and then I had
windows. Well, doors and windows. I mean, windows can be really cool. There's great windows around the country in Santa Fe, some of the old cities and stuff. But so architecture, but then not just the big whole thing, but keep cropping in on what little items you want to show. Finding a niche in that. Old houses. I mean, there's lots of old houses around, old plantations if you're in the South. We have a lot of old pioneer era houses from the 1800s, early 1900s here in Utah that I've been tentatively thinking about trying to shoot. But, there's finding that spot, and then doing it right.
Another thing to think about is like what's in right now. Because you know what, like pickleball. Yeah. I mean, whoever heard of pickleball 10 years ago? Pickleball is now the world's fastest growing sport.
Yeah.
Is there a way you could niche into that? Biking is big time right now. People wear those cute little outfits and they get on the bikes and they bike in packs,
Yeah.
I mean, that's another thing that's in right now. What else is in right now?
Kind of depends on where you live,
Yeah, that's true.
But
I mean, that's another thing. Like, is there something you're into? Everybody's into travel, so that's travel photography is too broad. You have to really find unless you're gonna tie it to like blogging or something like that.
Yeah.
But that's not a good niche if you're just trying. If you want to sell your photography as art, you have to have that niche and that look. So what is that niche and that look going to be for you? That doesn't mean you're limited to that. So I think we talked about a lot of good ideas. I have more in my class. I should have written them down so they were right in front of my face so I could think of them. But I think we're going to move on because I want to talk about finishes. So we talked a little bit about processing because, you could go black and white, learn, use topaz or Nik filters. You could do the HDR type of stuff, or you could do whatever David Sussman or Stefano Caporelli does that. I don't know what they do, but it looks cool. So whatever, that's all done in Photoshop. And I should say, then you finish it. That's a part of your look too. So do you have a look? Do you use the same kind of framing? For instance,
for me personally, yeah. For my open, I sell my work in two different things: open edition and limited edition. So, like in any given image, I will have X amount of limited edition, for it, and when they're gone, then open edition stuff's no longer available too. So my open edition stuff, I sell it on canvas. Gallery wrapped canvas is really popular. matted prints, and some inkjet style prints that come with a specific frame. For my limited edition stuff, it's all printed on Fuji Flex paper, which is a really high-end chromogenic, silver halide technology paper. What's really popular right now, I've steered away from it for my own reasons, but aluminum, where the people are printing, they're having it put on aluminum. It's got that's, if you go to most art shows, that's what most of the photographers are showing, is their stuff on that aluminum, which is really sleek, really popular. You can do it in glossy finish, or you can do it in matte. Like I said, I've stayed away from the dye sub-aluminum stuff because I've got way too many years in the photo finishing industry, and there's issues I don't like with that. So,
well, I guess my point is, your point is that there are lots of different finishes. My point is, you probably should be using one.
Yeah, and that's
part of your look. Like,
it is.
And a guy, his name is Craig Dietrich. On our show, I think it's Dietrich Photo, or DietrichUnderwater.com is his website. And he does underwater photography. The only option is high gloss on metal.
And that's
the only way he's going to sell it to you.
Yeah.
And it looks amazing. Clyde Butcher, you have one choice: black and white, white matte, black wood frame.
Yeah.
That's how Clyde Butcher's stuff is shown. So that is another part of your look.
Yeah.
Is to have, I frame only in barnwood frame, custom made barnwood frames or something like that, or, only on canvas, the loose weave canvas, which makes it look more rugged. Ooh, that'd be good with those horses. It's something that you have to think about for your look, is that you have to be consistent. I'm a judge at the Naples Art Association for the local shows. And one of the other judges, although she hasn't been there in a little while, maybe she quit, I don't know. Anyway, one of the original judges, I shouldn't say original, whatever. One of the previous judges.
Yeah.
Man, I'll tell you what, if you had inconsistent framing, she would terrible scores. She was just such a fanatic about it. So you never know what the judges are thinking, but that is a part of your look, is your finishes. So people need to learn about that and decide on a finish too. That was something I just wanted to make sure we talked about a little bit.
Yeah, it's true. A lot of people will just do canvas, but the high gloss aluminum is really popular right now. And it's very eye-catching. It just jumps out at you, like you were saying. So even the dull aluminum. There was one woman. She's in one. I'm so, my memory is like going lately. I'll tell you. I think I just have too much going on. Anyway, but she's in I have examples of her from my class. But she takes pictures of Cuba. Well, I got 1,000 pictures. I've had shows on all my Cuba pictures. Right, I've been to Cuba 4 times. My pictures aren't that different than everybody else's. Her pictures are all with this like soft vintage look. I'm sure she does it in Photoshop. I don't know how she prints it, but what I visualize that being printed on is like metal, but that dull metal. I think that would look so cool. She's just that whole vintage look going to her photos, and then to print it on that cool dull metal is pretty too. Yeah.
It depends on your picture. Like your wild horses, I don't think would look good on a high gloss aluminum, but that underwater photography, that looks amazing on that. So, you got to find the right finish for your subject too.
Yeah.
So, all right, what else? What else do we need to talk about? I wanted to make sure we cover everything that's on my little list because, it's all about me. I'm just kidding. Do you have any questions that you feel like we're not answering
Do I have any questions?
While I'm looking through my notes.
Oh. So basically, you've brought up stuff that I've never really thought about before, which is having not only that niche of having your work look consistent and of very specific things, but the finish and the framing on it. I've tended to go kind of like, I offer barnwood frames, I offer high quality frames made in Italy, and I've noticed other guys don't. Maybe there's a reason they don't.
Yeah.
But I like framing pieces depending on what it is. And so like wild horse stuff looks really good in barnwood, so.
Yeah, but if you decide on that as your choice, maybe you could say my wild horses are framed in barnwood, all of them.
Yeah.
Plus the other thing that you need to give people less choices. The more choices, the less decisions. If it's too, like when I go into a restaurant, if I open up a menu and there are like 5 pages, and I just close the menu and I ask the waiter, what do you recommend? I don't want to go through all that stuff, and that's the same thing. If you go on if somebody wants to buy, they go, oh my God, I got to have that picture. And then they get this menu, they go on your website to buy it, and there's this menu, and it's like, do you want to, 40 by 60, 40 by 50, 30 by 20, 20 and you have like 7 million choices for this. And then what type of finish do you want? And what type of, you're going to lose them. You know what I mean?
Yep.
They're like, oh, I didn't realize I had to make all these decisions. Maybe I need to measure my wall. I better not, I'll just set it aside, no decisions. I mean, you might, I'm exaggerating that, but if you say, here are the 3 sizes I sell of this picture, that's it. You want a smaller one? I have these 5x7 note cards. If they want a small one, sell them a pack of note cards. Don't sell them one. And of course, we always say don't sell small. If you have to sell small, have a few little, maybe 8x10s in a mat and some 5x7 note cards, and you don't want to have too much small stuff.
Yeah.
But you want to have enough small stuff to pay for the booth. That's kind of my philosophy.
Yeah.
You want to be able to make like $400 off the small stuff. Because, it's easier to sell small stuff. It's just that you won't make any money. So if you can just pay for your booth with the small stuff and then have, maybe 16 by 20 as your smallest image, and just have, these are my sizes, and just give them 3 choices. And the other thing about giving them less choices is if you have that cropped to a 40 by 60 or 2:3 ratio, that's the only ratio you sell in that picture.
Yes.
There's one guy, I'm trying to remember who he is. I think he's in our group. We have a Facebook group called Selling Your Photography as Art. Are you in that group?
I am. I'm on it, yes.
But there was somebody in there who only sells square pictures. And that's a brilliant idea too, because you know what square pictures are great at? Grouping.
Yeah.
Putting them all in a row and they look awesome. Making them into 4 squares, and they look awesome. That's just brilliant. It's really smart. There's all kinds of ways that you can kind of, do your art, and I know I'm getting more into the marketing again because that's what I tend to do, but niching is the first step. You have to make a name for yourself and a brand for yourself. Those are 2 different yet similar things. So your brand is your look and who you are. I am, Tomas Mitchell, and I am a Utah landscape photographer, or I am a wild horse photographer. We don't know yet. We're working on it. But that's who you are. But then, of course, making the name is those contests and the museum shows and the art shows and, the awards and accolades to make you seem important.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, people buy art for different reasons. Most of them are emotional reasons. Unfortunately, they don't buy it because it's pretty, and they should. Yeah. That's the only decision they should make. But that's not the only decision they make. They're like, oh, this is from Tom Mitchell. I gotta, he's famous. This must be good. you know, but that's the way people think. It makes them feel
Yeah.
important to have, the artwork of Peter Lick. I mean, Peter Lick is a good photographer, but his stuff looks like everybody else's. He's not really that much better than anyone else.
He's
Yet
just built a name.
he's Peter Lick,
Yep.
So people spend $100,000, $200,000 on one of his pictures
Yeah.
because he's Peter Lick. That's the only reason. Because they could get a very similar picture from a photographer for $500 probably, or $1,000, maybe 2,000. So that's something those are two things that you have to start with. But coming up with the look and the actual brand is your first step. I mean, the first step is to learn photography because it's, and I'm going to sound kind of harsh, but because we see so many people come through our Facebook groups and through our training center, and of course, I work at the Naples. I mean, I don't work at the Naples Art Association, but I freelance, and it's a customer of mine, and I go to a lot of art shows. There are a lot of photographers who just need more training, and so that's the first step. If you think you're good, you're probably terrible.
That's true. I find
you're asking me for advice on your photography. I'm looking at your photography. It's fantastic. And you think you're not that good.
I find the older I get, the more I realize the less I know.
And the more you learn about photography, the stupider you feel.
Yes.
Because you're like, I didn't know that. I didn't know that. I didn't know that. I started teaching photography after I had been in business full time for 12 years. And I really felt like a fraud. I just thought, oh my gosh, I only have 12 years experience, and I'm not that, I'm just not qualified. And then after 3 or 4 months of taking classes with me, all my students started teaching. And I was like, I think they got a little arrogance problem going on, but whatever. All right. What else do we talk about? Because we're going to start wrapping it up. So, Tom Mitchell, I'm helping brand your name. And you are Tomas Mitchell, which sounds Hispanic, and you're not.
Yeah, it's my parents' cruel joke. Spell my name without an H.
You could be Italian or sexy Colombian.
I was a redhead before I went bald and gray. And I tell people, my name is Tomas Mitchell. My mother was from Mexico. My father was from Scotland. And they're like, really? And I'm like, no, it's a joke.
But it is easy to remember your name that way.
Yeah. And I'll tell you what, when it came time to marketing my name and getting like my Gmail and my website, nobody was Tomas Mitchell, So it was wide open. I thanked my mom. She's 87. I said, thank you, Mom, for leaving the H out of my name.
Yeah. That's a good point. So, I mean, so you feel like this was worthwhile? You've gotten some ideas? I mean, of course, we already talked about this because this is the second time we tried to record this. So it's our second conversation, but yeah, and you've given me some ideas that I'm going to stick in my classes. That's every time I talk to someone, I learn more. There's so much to selling your art, and most of it is psychological.
It is.
Somebody's buying something for emotional reasons. So we need to, like you said, I forget how you said it, but you said it in this conversation, when you're trying to sell something, you're trying to find what's going to bring their emotions out.
Yeah.
And that's why niching down works so well. And then, of course, it helps you to make your look and your name and everything else like that. So have you made any decisions?
I think I'm going to settle for the time being on my mountain pictures, the local major peaks, because I know they will sell locally at the shows I do. I wouldn't be able to sell them in Miami, but I'm not planning on going to Miami and doing an art show. So,
Another thing that we didn't talk about was what is the most likely for you to do, because
that,
you live there.
yeah.
You don't live where all those wild horses are.
No, there's a herd of wild horses about 2 hour drive west of my house, but I can be I can see these peaks from my front yard. And within 5 minutes I've been scouting parking lot locations with trees in the foreground that I can then get these shots with, when the trees have gone yellow in the fall with snow on the peaks. I've been scouting stuff like that. And that's really, I think, what I'm going to just center on right now is becoming that guy, because nobody else is doing it, becoming that guy here in Utah that is photographing all the major peaks and selling them at the shows. And it's something I started a couple years ago, and I just kind of get sidetracked, you know how it is, and I've just got to buckle down, and this is the year I'm going to do it. So.
Okay, so I'm going to make it a little bit easier for you, because I'm going to say, let's schedule you for a show. What? How long will it? Is 6 months too soon?
6 months would probably be good.
When we get off this call, we're going to schedule you to record a show in 6 months. And you're going to have to tell the entire audience. Right now, we're getting about 700 to 1,000 downloads a show on our podcast. And you're going to have to fess up. Did you do it or did you not do it? You like it?
Sure, I'm game.
Man, I'm kind of mean to you, aren't I? I just
No.
met him. I just met you, and I'm also like, I'm doing this to you. But I'm on a kick right now because, I had 10 days by myself when I was in Italy this summer. And so 10 days of just reading and introspect and praying and yoga and all that kind of stuff. And I'm becoming really big on trying to figure out ways to make myself more accountable. So you hit me at that spot in my life. So I'm going to make you accountable. And having an accountability partner is the most important thing. And now you've got 700 people who are going to probably watch that show or listen to the show.
Well, I'll try not to let them down.
So you're going to have to look at your calendar and make a schedule on when you're going to do it. Because what happens is we get busy. Life is so busy.
Yeah.
And for me, if I don't schedule time to do things, it's not going to happen. I listened to a podcast by Brendan Burchard, and one of the things he does is, I'll say, well, I want to go to the gym every day. And he goes, let me see your calendar. If it's not on your calendar, you don't want to go to the gym every day. That's what he said. So he just puts people right on the spot. Let me see your calendar. Whoa. So 6 months from today, Tom Mitchell is going to show us, well, you can't show us in the podcast examples of your work, but we can put examples on our, in the show notes. And then we're going to hear a report on how it's going. But your season for shows is in the summer, right?
Generally, I there's one I do in Nevada at the end of January, and then one in March, and then I don't really do anything till June.
So we won't really know sales results right away. We'll put you on the spot on the show in 6 months about sales results.
Yeah.
Poor Tom. You'll be like, oh my God, everybody will start following you. I'm going to lose all my podcast listeners because you'll start your own podcast and everybody will follow you.
No, not even.
Your career. It's fun to follow someone's career, though. As I get older, I've learned that more and more because, people, my son is 33 now. And of course, I've watched his career. He's my son. But like a lot of his friends, and it's fun to watch their careers. Somebody came in for a headshot this Tuesday that I've been photographing since he was in his early 30s. He's 44 now. And,
Wow.
now he's some big shot at the financial, and he was just kind of starting out when I met him, and it's fun to watch people's careers. So I
It
think
is.
people will enjoy that. All right. Any last words?
Not that I can think of, but thank you again for having me on. This has been fabulous.
It was fun. It was so different from anything we've done. So I hope the audience, give me some feedback. In fact, you guys always hear me beg for reviews on iTunes because that helps us. Reviews anywhere help us, but on iTunes, they help us more than anywhere else. And, it's not, Apple doesn't make it easy. You got to go into iTunes and find it and all that. I can't just send a link out, which is kind of annoying, but that's the way it is. So it's a little harder to get reviews, especially for my audience, which is a little bit older, but that's okay. All right. Thank you so much. And we will talk to you in 6 months.
Cool. Thank you.
Well, that was kind of fun. It was different. I hope you enjoyed our little brainstorming session. Be sure to check out understandphotography.com for the show notes and to see some of Tom's work. I'm Peggy Farren. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you next Friday at 4 p.m. Eastern Time.